Hi everyone, Troy Martin, TM Fitness, Headology. What is Headology? That's Troy speak for Neuroscience, mother lovers. So before we get into this, let me just explain a little bit about the mind and language and the importance of language, the words that you use when you're thinking about things and the words that you use when you're talking about things. This impacts you on an individual intrinsic level, and it impacts those that you're addressing on an intrinsic level. It's particularly worth paying attention to this if, like myself, you're a coach and you're dealing with people one-to-one, giving advice. So coaches, trainers, teachers, managers, parents. Now we can talk about positive and negative language, but it's not just a simple case of constantly being infuriatingly positive all the time, like some weird new age hippie. There's an element of the kind of people that are like that refuse to accept any kind of negativity, are just simply burying their head in the sand. It's like the doctrine of Buddhism that life is suffering, but that the true reward of life is learning how to confront and deal with that suffering. So there's more to a positive mindset than just saying positive things all the time. However, the mind doesn't really understand or recognise negative language. The words like can't, don't, won't, don't compute, so they're discarded. If you say, I don't want to be sick, the mind doesn't recognise don't, so you can take that out. Want is a desire, that's ego, so that's not recognised, so you take that out, and all you're left with is I am sick. So you can see how that works. So with that being said, let's talk about placebo and nocebo. Now we're getting into the neuroscience of it. Most of you will be familiar with the word placebo. It comes from the Latin. It means I shall please. So it has a positive connotation. So it's all about optimistic belief, positive outcomes, i.e. with medicine. So if a doctor gives you a tablet that contains no medicine, maybe it's sugar, but says to you, take this tablet, it's going to take your pain away. You take the tablet and your pain goes away because you're expecting a positive outcome. Even though there's nothing in that tablet that's caused a physiological, biological reaction within the body, the expectation that it was going to make you feel better makes you feel better. So it's working on some neurological, emotional level. So that's placebo. What a lot of people aren't so familiar with is nocebo, which is the polar opposite. So in Latin, that means I shall harm. So placebo is I shall please, nocebo is I shall harm. So you can look at it like Star Wars. This is the light side, so these are the Jedi, this is Yoda, and over here is the Sith, the dark side. You've got Lord Sidious and Darth Vader. So nocebo, I shall harm, which is a pessimistic belief, compared with placebo, which is the optimistic belief. Okay, so pessimistic belief leading to negative outcomes, i.e. pain expectation and limiting beliefs in life or sport. So language is really, really important. Nocebo is the one that we really need to focus on. It's something that I've been really focusing on myself when dealing with clients, trying not to insert those negative expectations. You will, without realising it, implant a negative command that creates a pessimistic expectation. So for example, let's say you're working with a client and you're teaching them how to bench press, and you say, dude, don't hold the bar up here, you're bending your wrist, it's going to damage your wrist, you're going to get an injury. So you've just done harm to that client by leading them into the expectation that they're going to injure themselves using that technique. So instead of that negative example, use more positive language that takes that out of the equation. So just say, use this grip to create better stability, integrity through the wrist. You're not even mentioning pain, you're not saying don't, you're not talking about injury, you're just saying do this, this is good. A really good illustration for this that I picked up from a good friend of mine, Stephen Aish, who's an expert in this sort of field. Your children are playing at the top of the stairs. Now that's an obvious risk. You're concerned that there's going to be an accident, so you say to the kids, don't play at the top of the stairs. Suddenly you've drawn attention to that risk. By implanting that expectation, you have just increased the chances of that hazard becoming a risk. If those kids then fall down the stairs, you're more than partly responsible for creating that situation. So instead of saying don't play at the stairs, because by saying that, you've put out the words play and stairs. It's too late. You've already drawn attention to the situation. You defuse the situation by not even drawing attention to the situation. So instead of saying, don't play at the stairs, you say, your toys are on this mat, come and play over here. You haven't mentioned the stairs, you haven't mentioned any negatives, you haven't drawn attention to the risk. You've completely diffused the situation by not even mentioning the situation. Doctors are really good at this. You go to the doctor with backache. Doctor, I've got backache, and they'll go, well, you know, you're not getting any younger. You know, you've had an active life. Don't lift anything. Don't run. Don't have fun. Just blah, 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 blah. You've got degenerative disc disease. Your spine's wearing out. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's all this negative reinforcement all the time. So avoid that. However, there is also kind of a retrospective nocebo as well. So let's use a scenario whereby you've just run a half marathon. What you then do is you look back on that and go, well, I should have run faster. I must do better. Should and must are ways of punishing yourself. So when you retrospectively look back on that, you should just say, well, you know, I've run this thing. It was a great experience. But instead you say, I should have run faster, I must do better, and you've cognitively undone all the potential benefits you've had from that session with those two words. So that's headology. Hopefully that's given you something to think about. If you've got anything out of this video, click like. Please subscribe to my channel for further updates. Check out my other videos and have a look down below and check out my Facebook page for daily updates. All right, guys, laters.